Welcome back once again to another episode of College Basketball Review Studio. Matt Majinski, Dan Siegel, Ariel Poterman with you as usual. As always, make sure to hit that subscribe button. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure to hit that sub button. Obviously, we want to keep producing great college basketball content like this for the rest of the season, and we can't do that without viewers like you. Guys, let's get right into it. Week 11 recap and Week 12 game picks coming at you today, and we will start, as always, with the weekly Wright Award, something good or wholesome that you saw in college basketball over the last week. And Dan, we will toss it to you.
So, for the first time in a while, some news on the NCAA front actually is positive, and it just came out. They just released a memo effective immediately that they are modifying the transfer portal time window. Everybody, if you're following college sports, is aware of the disastrous situation that is college football right now. The peak of the offseason is involved. The transfer portal cycle will end before the national championship even happens, which is just a crazy calendar. But college basketball dropped the news that there will be a 15-day transfer portal period the day after the national championship, and an additional 15-day period will open 5 days after a new coach comes in. So you could kind of see what your new coach is all about, then decide if you want to transfer. Those guys get exceptions. And also mid-year transfers are ineligible to compete that year. Look, tampering will still happen, but I think this is a step in the right direction of structure in college basketball. So I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, definitely good for the sport going forward. Like you mentioned, we don't see that too much now in college sports. So good to have a positive there. Ariel, what do you got here?
I'll talk about UT Martin. Hey, remember them? I think we probably used them as a J Wright early in the season because they beat UNLV and Bradley, and I think a lot of people forgot about them, but they're still looking pretty strong. They're 6-1 in conference play, all alone at the top with a 1-game lead, and overall looking really strong. They've got a lot of really talented foreign guys, really great coach in Jeremy Schulman. Look, if I'm one of those 3 to 4 seeds right now in the projected bracketology, I would be keeping an eye on this team because this is a team that could make some noise. I don't know if they're going to win, but definitely not a team to look over. So shout out to UT Martin. I think they're the Skyhawks. Really good start to the season, and they're looking like a real contender to make a tournament run.
Very fun team to watch, of course, there. My J. Wright Award actually is going to go to the Stanford Cardinal. A lot to talk about here. Obviously, the most recent win in the Harrison Ingram war, beating North Carolina. Obviously, Harrison Ingram, a guy who played for both schools not too long ago. And yeah, Stanford, I mean, they're good, guys. I think we can put it at that. We put a graphic out today as we're recording. Actually, yesterday. We were into the wee hours of Friday morning at this point. But as of January 15th, Stanford was 4-1 in Quad 1 games. Obviously, Quad 1 always changing the net rankings, so they could be 1-4 the next day because that's just a weird system. Kind of kidding there, but pretty cool to see what Stanford's been able to do. Get some pretty big wins. They had a win over St. Louis earlier in the season. They had a win over Minnesota as a part of a non-conference tournament that they won. Obviously, the win over Louisville a little bit a while ago, and now the win over North Carolina. I want to see what they do against Duke. It's coming up. It's on Saturday. I know Stanford's not ranked, but they definitely should have, kind of everyone in the ACC should be seeing them at this point. There's no way Stanford's going to escape any more teams. They are on everyone's radar. One more real quick thing on them. Kyle Smith, he's had a very interesting career as a head coach. This is his 4th stop. He started at Columbia in 2010, and every single school that he coaches at, he kind of takes them from – they're not really in like a terrible, terrible place, but he kind of takes over a school that clearly wants to go in a different direction, and he's been able to propel them. Like when he took over Columbia, it wasn't like they were winning like 5 games every year, but they definitely needed something new, and he was able to bring them and had a couple 21 seasons. When he got to San Francisco, we all know San Francisco has a history. Again, got there, they were winning like 15, 16, 17 games. He had a couple 20-win seasons. Same deal at Washington State, and now we're seeing it at Stanford because it's not like Stanford wins 9 or 10 games in a season, right? This is not DePaul we're talking about, but clearly we have not seen Stanford be good in a little bit. They go 21-14 last year, and I think it's safe to say they are a quality team in the ACC this year. So talking more about Stanford than I ever thought I would on this podcast this season, but yeah, that's college basketball in 2026. Let's move on to the Payne Award. Back to you, Dan. Something really bad or disastrous that you saw in hoops this week?
Yeah, again, I'm scrolling to the bottom of the KenPom pages. I'm looking at Chicago State, and this one is a very unfortunate collapse for us Chicago State truthers. So let me ask you guys a question. When you have the ball, you're up by 2 points, and there's 0.1 seconds remaining. What do you think Haslametrics would say your win probability is? 99.999?
That's generous. Yeah, I'd say even higher.
So Chicago State was in that spot against Stonehill. I believe this was this past weekend, and they lost the game. Here's the sequence of events. So 0.1 seconds, they can't get the ball in bounds. The player calls a timeout to avoid the 5 seconds. Here's the thing. They don't have any timeouts remaining, so it's a technical foul, right? Stonehill player sinks both technical free throws, ties it up. Chicago State loses the game in overtime. And here's the thing about this, right? With 0.1 seconds, you throw it directly to the other team, the game is over. You just throw the ball to the other team. You take a 5 seconds violation, the game is also over because you can't get a tip to the basket or shot. Like you can't do anything with 0.1 seconds. That is the only possible way to lose the game. They were very creative in finding a way. And yeah, college basketball, you'll see something you've never seen before on a nightly basis.
Ariel, what do you got here? Does it beat that?
No, mine's more of a old man yelling at cloud situation. I'm going to talk about Wednesday's night games, and I'm not talking about the 8 o'clock tip-offs, 9 o'clock tip-offs. I'm talking about even later than that. We had Michigan, Washington, and Arizona State both tipping off at 10:30 Eastern. And if that wasn't bad enough, we have Duke and Cal and TCU and BYU tipping off at 11 p.m. Eastern. Now, I know how time zones work. I know they're not tipping off at 11 o'clock local time. But, like, come on. These are top 10 teams. These are 3 potential 1 seeds. We want to watch these games. We want to see these teams in road situations and trap games. And putting the games on this late, it's just not helpful for 99% of college basketball watchers who don't reside in the West Coast or on Mountain Time, and need an early night sleep so they can get to work the next day. So scheduling committee do better because these were actually some really good games. I don't think any of them ended up really coming down to the wire except for TCU and BYU. But when we got to halftime, all 4 of these games were in close situations where it didn't really make sense to turn off the TV and be like, this game's over, I can go to bed. Me being a 25-year-old who is okay with staying up, it wasn't too bad for me, but I know there's a lot of people who are definitely feeling FOMO in the morning, and that's just because of poor scheduling by whoever's in charge, the NCAA or Big 12 or ACC, whoever it is.
Yeah, and of course, my Kenny Payne Award goes to the point shaving scandal. We cannot go this episode without talking about that because that was the big news that dropped. Really national news when you talk about it. About 20 schools, give or take. Probably almost 50 players involved in it. These are rough numbers, of course. Who knows if many more will come out. But guys, it's just rough to see because you have some low mid-major schools involved in it, which doesn't surprise you because, for the most part, a lot of those players aren't really going to go to the next level. And it's easier to maybe get them involved in stuff. But then you have teams like St. Louis, DePaul. Like, we're talking college basketball notable teams, power conference teams that were involved in this. There were plenty of other group of 5 schools, teams that have Division I FBS football schools. Like, these are not just your run-of-the-mill colleges. Kind of makes sense, again, that it's not like all power conference schools. I think that would make me like very scared of the future of the game if we saw like, Alabama or like UConn or, obviously, you're not surprised maybe to see a DePaul, but one player in particular, Simeon Cottle, because I was like, hold on a second. And I was like, yeah, he dropped like 30 some points the other day. We posted a graphic to our website when we do our individual player graphics when guys have good games. And he was one of the guys that was named in this, potential, allegedly point shaving scandal. And I just got to look at that and be like, what are some of these guys thinking? Because, by the way, Simeon Cottle, yeah, he's a senior, and yeah, he plays for Kennesaw State. I'm not going to sit here and say that he's on NBA draft guys' radars, but he is averaging 20 points, 4 assists, shooting 38% from deep. Like, he's going to get probably some type of a look to play professionally somewhere and make a lot more money than he ever would in a point shaving scandal. So I just kind of wonder what is really going on behind the scenes because it just is like, why would some of these guys do this? And then, of course, there was the video of the UB players. And Kent State what are you doing against a 4-win team that is literally trying to lose in a point-shaving scandal? How bad was Kent State playing in that game? Just very interesting stuff going on here. Point shaving's been around forever, guys. Like, I remember as a Syracuse fan, there were some rumors that Scoop Jardine was involved in one. This was like in the early 2010s, ended up being false. Like, this has been a thing, long been a thing. It's nothing new, but sports betting, like everything, is elevating it, and I think we're gonna see more of it. This is not the end of it. Let's go to the Bill Walton Award. Something weird or unique, Dan?
Well, we have 3 undefeated teams remaining in college basketball. Let's brighten the mood a little bit here. So one of them is Arizona. That makes sense, right? But the other 2, I think, is the Bill Walton-y, the weird, unique part of this. The last 2 undefeated teams besides Arizona, Nebraska, which, at this point, you guys are familiar. Like, we've given them their flowers. But just try to conceptualize that. Like, Nebraska is one of the last undefeated teams. And then same thing with Miami, Ohio. And if you pull up this map here, no, there it is. I think these maps are kind of aesthetically pleasing. Basically, what they do is they take every undefeated team throughout every day by day, and you basically conquer the territory that's nearest to whatever the nearest undefeated team is. That county kind of gets conquered by that team, so to speak, and it's just as cool. Like, it's all the same color, kind of split evenly in thirds. I don't know if you are on social media, this means something to you. If you're not, it probably doesn't. But 3 undefeateds, and one of them is Miami, and one of them is Miami, Ohio, and one of them is Nebraska. I think that's kind of weird, but I love it. I definitely do.
Very, very fun to see that. Also, I do want to say probably my favorite map of my favorite posts by Joey Luce, who puts these out on Twitter. Whenever, obviously the beginning of the season, you look at this map and it's fun to see how it shifts day by day. And then it's kind of weird because then all of a sudden it reaches a point where, maybe only one team is being eliminated per couple days. But yeah, very cool to see this. Let's move on to you, Ariel. What do you have here for us for our Bill Walton Award?
I'll quickly say I like that Alaska was representing Nebraska.
Yeah.
Any Nebraska fans in Alaska that are watching this, send us a DM and I'll Venmo you $20 or something. But I need proof. That you're in Alaska and you're supporting the Huskers. Back on track here. Let's talk about Virginia Tech. Maybe the craziest 5-game start to a conference play ever. Starting with their first game, they went to triple overtime and beat Virginia. Then they followed that up with a loss to Wake Forest on a 3 with 6 seconds left to lose. Followed that up with a loss to Stanford on a 3 with 4 seconds left to lose. So they're sitting at 1-2 right now with 2 buzzer beater losses with under 6 seconds to go. Then they actually have a boring win, which is a 3-point win over Cal. That was neck and neck the whole second half. And then finally on Wednesday night, if anyone was watching, they saw SMU hit a half-court buzzer beater to pull off the win, a game that Virginia Tech really should have won. Really exciting game and an incredible shot, but they're sitting at 2-3, and they could very easily be sitting at 5-0 right now. That just shows how the little things in college basketball can go a long way. And if you love close games and crazy finishes, then make sure you're watching Virginia Tech throughout the rest of the season, because they've been delivering all season long, especially since January started.
They definitely have. They've been a fun team to watch. I'm going to move on to another game, part of a game that was a close finish. I promise, by the way, guys, I watched more than just Seton Hall and Syracuse. It might seem that way, but Saturday I sat down and watched 6 or 7 different games. I watched so many games on Saturday over the weekend, but the one that caught my eye for this was the Seton Hall Connecticut game, because if you're watching it, then it was pretty much impossible to ignore the fan in the stands that was just blatantly yelling at Danny Hurley the entire game, to the point where the broadcast crew was like, yeah, we're kind of a little bit distracted right here. This guy was right behind the broadcast crew. I'm pretty sure you could end up spotting him, because at one point they put the camera on the broadcast crew and you could see this guy that was just saying explicitives in the background, and they cut away from the shot because you don't need to be a lip reader to know what he was saying. But I just want to say shout out to New Jersey, because we have some fun fans. Obviously, let's keep it maybe a little bit more mild-mannered and don't be cursing at everyone. But overall, I like the heckling. It's a lot of fun. I'm pretty sure Hurley feeds off of it, which maybe was a good or I don't know. It wasn't the best thing. I also do want to say, too, Dan Hurley had a fiery interview at halftime of that game. I don't know if you guys caught that, but that could have been this award as well. He said something like, yeah, if we rebound or if we play defense like that, we are not losing this game. Like, he went out and did like a Joe Namath, like, bold prediction at halftime there, and it ended up coming true. So that was a fun game all around with a lot of crazy stuff happening in the Prue Center. Let's go to the takeaways. Starting in the ACC, Dan, let's talk about the ACC over the past week.
So Ariel and I have been texting a lot about ACC ball, and we called it together just the most fun league in the country. Not the best, but the most fun league in the country for sure. Ariel, you talked about how Virginia Tech could just never play a normal basketball game. Also, Matt, you talked about Stanford. I think we got to give some love on this podcast to Abuka Okorie. He's just been an incredible freshman. Like one of those guys that the numbers are all American like, and maybe Stanford just as a team doesn't get them there, but he's just been so effective. Also, guys, stop me if you've heard this before. UNC has a defense problem. Again, under Hubert Davis. They had a narrow win over Wake and then lost to Stanford. Listen to this stat. This is courtesy of Isaac Trotter. So point guards against UNC over the last 3 games, this is their box score. SMU's Boopy Miller, 27 points and 12 dimes. Wake's Nate Calmes then goes out and gives 28 points and 9 dimes. And then Okorie, who I just mentioned for Stanford, has 36 points and 9 dimes. That's an average of 30 points and 10 assists per game by opposing point guards against UNC in the past 3 games. So, yeah, that's basically been what's happening down there. Then 2 really quick comments. We got to give Miami and Clemson their flowers, especially Miami. I think Malik Renew has finally found his calling card there. And then Virginia beats Louisville 79-70. I think that is a representation of kind of what's been happening with both teams. Virginia has just been trending up. Malik Thomas hitting 6 threes. Watch out for them. And then Louisville, their great offense has just turned into basically inefficient shot chucking without Mikal Brown. So their point guard situation is really not looking good there.
Ariel, that's the ACC. What do you have out of the Big 12 for us?
Yeah, you got to talk Kansas first, and I love talking Kansas, but they unfortunately dropped the game to West Virginia on the road, 1-2 in conference play, and they barely beat TCU to get that 1 win. Seems like the sky's falling. Kansas season's done. Darren Peterson's still in the news. Iowa State's coming up next. They're undefeated. This could get ugly, and Kansas did what Kansas does, and Bill Self did what Bill Self does, and they just absolutely destroyed Iowa State at home. It wasn't even close from start to finish. Trey White was unbelievable. Darren Peterson, solid. He wasn't even that great, which is what makes it dangerous. But the role players stepped up. Jamari McDowell, Marco Jackson. Really impressive win there. Obviously, they can win at home. Let's see if they can win on the road, though, because that's still the big question. Here's a fun one. Arizona, still undefeated, one of the last undefeated like we just talked about. However, they got their first single-digit win against Arizona State. So every games they've won has been by double digits. It's their first time since November 19th against UConn. So that's just under 2 months of double-digit wins for Arizona. And they weren't playing a bunch of mid-majors. They were playing some really good teams. Auburn was in that mix, San Diego State, and some of those Big 10, 12 opponents. And then finally Houston. They're starting to look like Houston again after a little bit of a sluggish start to the season. And by sluggish, we mean only 1 loss to start the season, but back-to-back 20-point wins. They're looking dominant. They're undefeated in Big 12 play. Still a lot of big games on their schedule, but definitely not what other Big 12 opponents want to see, that they're looking so in control right now. So the good teams are staying good in the Big 12. A lot of the less good teams are starting to find their way toward the bottom. But Houston, watch out for them because they're looking like a serious threat once again.
And then I'll look at the Big East. Obviously, teams are starting to really fight for positioning. It starts with UConn at the top, as always. Again, on the road, a place they haven't won at in 4 straight times. They're able to beat Seton Hall. Almost blew a pretty large lead, which obviously is due to the pressure that Seton Hall can bring and really force a lot of turnovers. But just props to UConn. Braylon Mullins, guys, I think he's a lottery pick. Just such a smooth shot. He gets so much elevation on his jump shot. Plays with a lot of poise. Does it on both ends, by the way. He had 3 steals, 2 blocks in the game, along with 11 points on 5-9 shooting. Like, just talk about efficiency all around. That's Braylon Mullins for you. They're finding ways to win without Solo Ball. Remember I brought that up last episode, how he didn't play in that overtime loss to Providence down the stretch? Well, he played 32 minutes, but he was held in check to 8 points. Yet UConn is still finding ways to put up almost 70 and win a game like that. Also, quick note on Seton Hall, 20 offensive rebounds to 17 defensive rebounds. When's the last time you saw a team lose a game and have more offensive boards than defensive boards? I'm not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Obviously, there were a few times where, it's the classic miss, rebound, just kind of get stuffed like that. But 20 offensive boards in a loss. Kind of crazy there. I want to talk about Xavier a little bit because Xavier, guys, I don't know what to think about this team. Like, 1 minute, I think they're terrible because they lose to DePaul and Marquette, granted both road games. And then this week, you're beating Providence and you're beating Butler, both at home, but by 13 points and by 14 points. Providence is nothing to write home about, but Butler, they started the season all right. I mean, clearly Xavier is okay, we're not the worst of the worst in the Big East, but I just don't know where to rank them. And then Villanova. I have a new take on Villanova, guys, because I do kind of think they're for real. But then I was looking back at this week and the rest of their Big East slate. Their big win was over Seton Hall on the road by 8 points. But besides that, guys, they beat DePaul. They blew out Butler on the road, but Butler has one Big East win. And this week they won at Marquette and at Providence. They've really played no one substantial. They lost to Creighton. So they split the tough games against Seton Hall and Creighton. These next 2 of 3 for Villanova, guys, I think this is really going to show us if they're for real. They've got St. John's and UConn with Georgetown in the middle. The Big East used to run through Villanova. It'd be awesome to see them get back, but I think these next 2 or 3 are really what we need to see because lately it's just been all right, you're playing these lower half teams. Let's really see if Kevin Willard has them back. Let's move on to the mid-major takeaways. Dan, take us away there.
So I think the last bunch of times I've talked about some of the top leagues, I'm going to mix it up a little bit this time. I'm going to go down a little bit in the conference hierarchy. Let's talk about the Horizon League, guys. We got to do this. For as much crap as Doug Gottlieb has gotten, and then he's gotten just unnecessary praise for beating bad teams in non-conference play. Well, now he actually has his Green Bay squad at 6-2 in the Horizon League, second place behind Wright State. They're 180th in Torvik, which would be the highest they've finished since 2014 or something like that. So definitely higher than the great Sudane Wicks, who's at Wyoming now.
Sundance.
Was it?
Sundance Wicks.
Sundance Wicks. Either way, higher than him. He was, praised like crazy there. So props to Doug Gottlieb. Missouri Valley, let's look at them. Because your usual Drake and Indiana State teams who have now lost coaches, they have losing records. But what if I told you that the Missouri Valley still has 4 top 100 teams? Murray State is at the top of that. They've won 11 straight. They're 7-0 in conference play. So look out for Murray State as well. Definitely a team you want to watch. And then the Southland, they've already played half their conference schedule. So let's look into that conference a little bit. It's been McNeese's conference forever, and they remain strong at 7-1. But Stephen F. Austin and Nichols are also 7-1. Of course, Nichols is kind of weird because they're 7-1, but they're 8-9 overall. So just crazy. They just got smoked by McNeese, and of course, Nichols was part of that point shaving scandal that Matt alluded to earlier. So I don't really want to give much praise to them, but Stephen F. Austin, a legit contender, definitely a team to watch as well. So that's just a little bit around mid-major land. Definitely a lot more to say, but limited time here.
Ariel, take us away in the SEC.
Yeah, let's start with Vandy. No longer undefeated, one of the last teams to remain undefeated, but they lost to Texas, and pretty convincingly as well. Is Texas back? I'm going to say no for now, but I'll keep an eye on them. They still need a couple more wins to get back in tournament conversation. LSU, only team in the SEC without a win. They love starting the non-conference 12-2 and then just tanking once the conference play actually starts. I think this is it for Matt McMahon. They actually should have won against Kentucky, led for most of that game, but Malachi Marino hit a big buzzer beater to keep Kentucky in tournament conversations. They're now 2-2 in conference play instead of 1-3, which is obviously a big difference. And speaking of buzzer beaters, Ole Miss with a putback at the buzzer on the road against Georgia. That's a huge win for them. They really struggled in non-conference, so they can take any win they can get against especially a good Georgia team who's currently ranked. So a lot of movement in the SEC. Mizzou 3-1, really impressive, but a couple of really exciting buzzer beaters to potentially save some seasons as well is definitely the big takeaway from this week.
All right, and I'll finish things off in the Big Ten. I'll start with Wisconsin and Michigan, loop them into one. That was the game of the weekend, guys. One of the best games of the year. Wisconsin winning it by 3, knocking off Michigan. Look, Wisconsin, they were kind of even looking like they might even be out on the other end of the bubble because they really hadn't had a big win all season long. And then what did they do, guys? They have a massive week that includes beating UCLA, winning at Michigan. They've recently just won at Minnesota. Just talk about Wisconsin saying, you know what, we need to put our heads down and win some ball games. And then you look at Michigan on the opposite end of the spectrum, guys. They had some close games early on in the season, and then they just started blowing teams out and decided no one is in our league. But lately it's been a struggle because it's not just the loss to Wisconsin. It was a 2-point win at Penn State, and it was most recently a 10-point win at Washington. Michigan, maybe not as dominant as we once thought. Maybe, yeah, teams can get them here and there if they play a great game. Michigan State, guys, they look for real. I mean, let's look at Michigan State. They've lost 2 games all season. It was that game against Duke that went right down to the final minutes, and it was the 2-point loss at Nebraska. Like, Michigan State, guys, is legit. They've won a couple in a row since the Nebraska loss, 21 points against Indiana. I like what Jeremy Fears is doing. Like I've said it before, he's right up there with Braden Smith as one of the best point guards in the country. A few more teams, Nebraska, I don't have to say much more than they're still undefeated. We talked about it, and we have to mention it every time. I think that's a new rule on the show. If Nebraska is still undefeated, we find a way to bring it up. But 2 bad teams that we have to talk about. Oregon at 8-9 with a loss to Rutgers in the most recent days.
I don't understand them.
I think it's time for them to part ways with Dana Altman. I think it is. I'm putting it on him at this point. I mean, there's no excuse. There's no excuse to lose to Nebraska by 35 points. Like,
they're pretty banged up, but I agree.
Yeah, but like they were decent, returned their best players, and now suck. Like, how does that happen?
I feel bad for Shellstead too, because like that was a guy that had so much promise, and you really thought that he was going to have a great college basketball career, and now I think you just realize it's going to be riddled by injuries. Like I just feel bad for. I hope he's able to get it under control and find some health. And then one more team, real quick, Washington, because guys, if you looked at the schedule for Washington, a stretch where they have a 7-game stretch. Where they and some of these games they've already played. Purdue, Michigan, Michigan State, Nebraska, and Illinois, all in a 7-game stretch. Those are 5 teams that are currently in the top 13 of the country that they have in like a little less than a month or so. Washington, man, welcome to the Big Ten. Those are my Big Ten takeaways. Guys, we do not have a guest for this week, but we do have game picks to get to, and of course, that's what we're doing next. We got our 10 games that we're picking pretty much from Saturday through Tuesday. And let's just kick it off with Virginia at Southern Methodist Saturday at noon on ESPN2, Ariel.
I really like this Virginia team, Dan. I'm impressed. And I wasn't a huge fan of SMU either, but I'm turned after the UNC win and that awesome buzzer beater this past week. I'm still going to go Virginia. They just have it all right now, and they aren't really showing much weakness. And I think that they'll be able to really capitalize on SMU's weaknesses. So give me Virginia to pull off the big win on the road and keep their chance at the top of the ACC.
I'm actually going to go SMU, and for the exact opposite reason. I think SMU could really exploit the few weaknesses that Virginia does have. I think Boopy Miller is the point guard that could give them troubles, just winning those individual matchups, just basically winning one-on-one against the guards that, in a nutshell, aren't great defensively for Virginia. And then Yikatolu, like I think he could help out-physical them, right? I think we saw players be able to out-physical Virginia, and sometimes they struggle on the boards. Usually not, but sometimes. I'm going SMU.
Yeah, I'm going SMU. I mean, I've obviously been on them since the preseason. I'm happy that they're really starting to hit a stride, and they haven't lost at home this season. I think that continues with an early Saturday noon start there in Texas. Let's go to a top 20 battle between Florida and our beloved Vanderbilt Commodores, Ariel.
Yeah, what a week Vanderbilt has coming up to really show us if they're as legit as we think they are, or if they just started hot and once the first loss comes in, it just keeps snowballing. But I like them in this game. Florida's looked a lot better recently. They've definitely looked like the best team in the SEC, maybe in the past week and a half. But Vanderbilt at home, I trust them. Tyler Tanner is still amazing. Tyler Nickel's been solid as well, and I think that they'll really take advantage of the struggling guard play of Florida.
Yeah, that's definitely a factor. I'm going to go Florida here. Vanderbilt has gotten eaten alive on the inside lately. This is their 2-point against the last 4 games, 18 of 30, 17 of 30, 20 of 39, 20 of 34, all well over 50%. I think Florida front court feasts a little bit, and I think they win.
Vanderbilt already won at UCF earlier in the season, so they definitely know how to win on the road in Florida. Or, excuse me, they're at home here. Sorry about that, guys. But they obviously have a win, so I'll pivot from there because I'm an idiot and definitely thought that was a road game for Vanderbilt this time. But they're at home, so that even makes it even stronger case because I was going to go with Vanderbilt either way. So now I just have to say, hey, they're at home. The crowd's going to be up for this one, so give me the Commodores either way. Let's go to St. Thomas and North Dakota State, guys, on the Summit League Network, also Saturday at 2.
Pay-per-view, guys. Pay-per-view.
Yeah, baby.
So unfortunate because I actually want to watch this game because these are 2 teams that are undefeated in conference play. Definitely the clear 1 and 2 in their conference. If you're asking me who I want to win, I'm going to go St. Thomas because this is their first year eligible to make the tournament, so I would love to see them make it after they were really good the last couple of years when they were ineligible. But North Dakota State's undefeated at home this season. I think that they use that to their advantage and get the win here.
Okay, me and Ariel are usually an agreement fest, but we're a disagreement fest today. I'm going St. Thomas. I like the way the Tommies play, like their spacing, their passing, their cutting. They're like a fun mid-major offensive team. This is also the year of dethroning North Dakota State if you follow FCS football like I do a little bit. So, yeah, give me the Tommies. Jakari White is not there to save you, North Dakota State.
It's interesting because St. Thomas has clearly had a very good season, but all of their losses have been by 8 points or more, whereas North Dakota State has a couple more losses that easily could have been wins. And I'm not going to act and say that I've watched these games. Like, they could have been close games that were decided by free throw. So I'm going to put that out there right now. I have not watched every St. Thomas game or watched highlights, but what I do know is that North Dakota State has just looked more competitive, even in their losses. And obviously they're at home in this one. So give me North Dakota State. But I'm with you guys. I really do want to see St. Thomas make the tournament. Let's go to Miami and Clemson, a great ACC showdown Saturday at 2:15 on the CW. What better way to watch college basketball?
Yeah, I was a former Miami hater. If you watched my CBB rank episode, I was very harsh on them, and they've proven me wrong. I'll put my hand up and say they're a lot better team than I thought they'd be. But that being said, Clemson's also a lot better team than I thought they'd be, and Brad Brannell just knows how to win these big ACC games. So I trust him, especially at home, to get this win here.
Yeah, Tigers haven't lost at home yet, although Miami, both of their losses have been neutral site, so I guess they haven't lost a true road game either. I'm still going to go Clemson. This is going to be a fun game, though. Like, both teams are very physical. Both teams play through their bigs. Both teams are very good on the boards. Like, true, like, identities going right with each other. You know what I mean? Like, they kind of do the same thing. We'll just see who does it better. I'm going Clemson at home.
Yeah, obviously Clemson and Miami, too, the 2 longest winning streaks in the ACC, guys. So this is a really fun one that maybe we didn't expect at this point in the year. I just think Clemson being at home and their depth is going to wear out Miami throughout this game. Not going to act like it's going to be a blowout, but I just think that's going to be enough to put them over the top at home here. Give me number 22, Clemson. Let's go to a top 25 battle, Arkansas at Georgia. We know Georgia lost last week. Can they win a big home game here against the Razorbacks?
I love this Arkansas team, but they've looked really bad on the road. At home, they've looked like a top 5 team. On the road, they haven't looked like a top 25 team. And I think after that loss to Ole Miss at home on a buzzer beater, I think that they come back strong and they win this game.
Okay. Yeah, I never know how to pick these SEC games, especially like these ranked versus ranked. They're all crapshoots. They're both top 25 in tempo as well, so that'll be interesting. Arkansas takes care of the ball very well. They're 7th in the country in turnover rate, lowest that being Darius Acuff, the freshman point guard. Big reason. I think that is kind of how you beat Georgia, taking care of the ball. Give me Arkansas. Don't let Georgia run in transition.
I'm going to go with Arkansas. I think Georgia's a little bit overrated. I know they've had some good wins. I know they're playing all right, but come on, guys. Their best win of the season is Auburn. I'm not going to look at this Georgia team and honestly be too afraid of them. To be fair, Arkansas got blown out on the road by Auburn. So I do need to admit that, but I think that was more of an outlier than anything. Arkansas has played such a tough schedule. I think they're prepared for this one. I think John Calipari has his guys ready for this one. Give me Arkansas on the road to knock off the Bulldogs. Let's go to a Texas battle. A&M at Texas, Saturday at 6 on ESPN. This should be a surprisingly good one.
Yeah, I think environment-wise, it's going to be great. I mean, We know how much these teams don't like each other. It's definitely more prevalent in football, but I think we'll see it in basketball as well. Texas coming off that big win against Vanderbilt, but I like A&M in this game. I think that what they're doing is working, and they've looked really strong this season. I think a lot of people really didn't expect Buckyball to be this successful in year one. So I trust them, and I really just don't trust this Texas team. They just haven't looked as strong besides the Vanderbilt game. Unless Dalen Swain just has the game of his life, I think that Texas A&M pulls off the big win here.
All right, disagreement fest continues. I'm going Texas at home. The Longhorns they've been playing better ball lately. I think they're just a better team than they were when they were just performing poorly earlier on. They looked really bad against my Cavaliers earlier, but beating Bama and Vandy back-to-back, I think they go back-to-back, winning Texas A&M at home.
Yeah, that's enough to have me pick Texas in this one as well. But I will say, if Texas A&M can play their buckyball, Texas just doesn't have the three-point shooting to keep up with it. They have a couple guys that can hit, but as a team overall, I think Texas A&M can find a way to maybe pull ahead. And who knows if Texas is able to get back into it. Again, they've got guys that certainly can hit from deep, but this is not a team where you look at them and say it's a three-point shooting team. So for A&M, to me, it's about getting up and holding that lead and forcing Texas into an uncomfortable position. But with that being said, I do like Texas at home to continue. It's tough to pick against a team that has 2 straight wins over Bama and Vanderbilt. So props to you, Ariel, for finding a way to do that, because that takes a lot of
Texas A&M's only loss was a double overtime loss on the road to Tennessee this week, so it's not like they're not picking up those good wins either.
Sure. Let's go to what Mountain West game, New Mexico at San Diego State. If you don't know by now, New Mexico, a little bit underrated on the year, so maybe they can knock off San Diego State on the road. What do we think?
Yeah, I was looking at KenPom, and I did not think New Mexico was as good as they were. They're sitting at 50 right now in KenPom, but I think San Diego State, ever since conference play started, they've just kind of turned a new leaf. They looked really weak in non-conference play. They lost some games they should have lost, or they should have won, and played a couple games closer than they should have. So, especially with this game being at home, I think that San Diego State gets the win just with their overall depth. But I definitely keep an eye on New Mexico, because this is a team that could definitely sneak in and steal an at-large bid come March.
This is very anecdotal. I don't know if there's statistical proof for this. There's a way to calculate it. I just haven't seen it. But I think home court advantage in the Mountain West is one of the biggest of all the conferences. And I say all that to say I'm going to pick New Mexico. They're on a roll. Like, they're the 5th hottest team in the country, and that has Haslametrics momentum, which is basically like weights your most recent games against all the rest of your schedule and says like, okay, you've been playing well lately, you've been playing poorly lately. New Mexico's number 5. So I'm going to take them. Take the Lobos.
I'll mention quickly, Matt, sorry. Big reason why they have the home court advantage is elevation. A lot of these teams play in highly elevated places. San Diego is not highly elevated, so even if they do have a good home court, it's not because of that. But just want to mention that as you're looking at Mountain West betting later on in the season, and if that makes any factor to anyone watching this.
Well, I'm going San Diego State with all that being said, because they're at home. Their defense is coming around. I still am a little bit worried about their March Madness outlook, because their net is just not looking good. But I am going to go with them. I think that they have enough to turn this season around. First off, if you're a San Diego State fan out there, still a long ways to go. But for this game in particular, I'm going the Aztecs. Let's go to my Pirates at St. John's Tuesday at 7 on FS1.
I have no idea. I'm gonna be honest. I want to still believe in St. John's, and they've looked better recently. But anytime I doubt Seton Hall, they just look really good. So I'll put a coin flip, and I'll just go St. John's just because they're the home team.
It feels weird to say this, but isn't it almost like Seton Hall is just beating St. John's at their own game, like doing what St. John's wants to do, what Rick Pitino wants to do, but better, like the ball pressure, forcing turnovers, getting a lot of offensive rebounds. You got Hines, the freshman, who's blocking a ton of shots. I like Seton Hall.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. Like, I think Seton Hall wins this game. I just don't think St. John's is built to handle that pressure. Like, they're not like a high turnover team, but they really don't have guards that like you're like, okay, they're going to be able to pick up that pressure. So I just see Seton Hall just turning St. John's over 15, 20 times and winning this game. But I haven't even checked, guys. A big thing about this game is where exactly it is. It looks like it is at Madison Square Garden. So that's a big thing because St. John's doesn't have a great home advantage at the Garden. Seton Hall fans will travel there. Seton Hall fans would not travel to Carnesecca. Like there's a big difference there. It's very easy to get on NJ Transit and get to the Garden. Not very easy to take it all the way to Queens. So don't even expect this to be a big St. John's home game. Let's go Seton Hall on the road. Let's go to Miami, Ohio at Kent State Tuesday at 7. The Red Hawks, right? Can they stay undefeated?
I'm going to say yes, except I think this is probably their toughest matchup the rest of the season because they already beat Akron at home. I think it'll be really close. I think this could be a situation where they're down at half, maybe even down with 10 minutes to go, but there's just something about this team. They keep finding ways to win, and they have the depth and the talent to do so. So let's keep the streak going, Miami, against a good Kent State team.
Yeah, I mean, they're finding ways to win against the top of the MAC. But what I've also been encouraged by is they're absolutely blowing out teams in like anywhere outside the top 4, top 5 of the MAC. They're plowing through that bottom 2/3 of the league. I'm done doubting Miami. I'm done saying this is their trap game. This is like they're going to win until proven otherwise. I don't think they're running the table, but they're going to win until proven otherwise. Give me Miami.
It's a tough one for me. Like I want to go with Miami really bad, guys. And then I just see Delreco Gillespie, and he is a monster. He is a handful for any team to handle. Miami isn't like this outstanding rebounding team. Like when you look at them, it's probably going to have to be Antoine Woolfolk. When you look up and down their roster, like he's going to have to be the guy that tries to shut down Gillespie. I'm going to say he's up for the challenge. I say Miami gets this win on the road. I just don't want to pick against the undefeated team. But yeah, this is going to be a tough one. Gillespie is a serious hooper for Kent State. Let's go to our final game, kind of our game of the week, I guess you could say. We wanted to get a Vanderbilt guy on the show. We weren't able to, so we won't talk more about it because we had Vanderbilt earlier in this episode in another pick, but Vanderbilt and Arkansas should be another great one on Tuesday at 9.
Yeah, like I mentioned, Arkansas is a completely different team at home versus on the road. They're 10-0 at home this season. I think they're 3-4 on the road / neutral, so clearly a big difference there. And it's going to show again in this game. Vanderbilt's a great team, and I think that they get that win earlier in the week against Florida. But against Arkansas, I think they have the nod just because of the way Darius Acup's playing right now, plus that Bud Walton home court. I think that's enough to get it done.
Yeah, I picked Florida to beat Vandy, and then I picked Arkansas to beat Georgia. You know what? I'll have that trend continue. I'll have Arkansas beating Vanderbilt on the road again, Arkansas's at home again. Like I have never have a feel at these SEC games. It's just it's cannibalism, but I'll take the home team when in doubt.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go with Arkansas on this one too. Like I like Vanderbilt to get the win at home over Florida, but it's kind of the same thing. Like the SEC is just such a crapshoot. It's like that in any game, in any sport, but it just seems like in college basketball in the SEC this year, I mean, talk about a conference like you mentioned. I mean, every team's just going to beat every team. So, yeah, when in doubt, go with the home team here. Go with Coach Cal. And I guess a big week for Arkansas. I picked them twice this week, so maybe we'll see Arkansas, if that comes true, vault up in the rankings. That does it for our game picks. That does it for our episode, guys. Another great week of college basketball behind us and another even better week of college hoops in store for us. As always, if you were able to get through the entire episode listening to us stupid guys talk about college basketball, hit that sub button. Join us with the stupidity of this great game. I'm Matt Baginski. That's Dan Siegel. That's Ariel Puderman saying good night, and thanks for listening.